It was past midnight when Emily opened her eyes and saw the house staring back at her. At first, she thought she was dreaming. The faint glow from the hallway light stretched across her bedroom wall like thin fingers, and the air felt thick, almost alive. But then she heard it again, the slow creak from the corner of the room right above her bed. She froze. Her breath caught in her throat. The sound wasn't coming from the floor. It was coming from the wall. The old wallpaper, faded and peeling, began to move. She blinked hard, but no, it really was shifting, pulsing like something was breathing beneath it. She watched in horror as two faint bulges appeared, perfectly round, pressing outward as if eyes were trying to open from inside the wall. Emily's hand trembled as she reached for her bedside lamp. But before she could touch it, a voice, soft, childlike and echoing, whispered right beside her ear. "Don't turn on the light. It doesn't like that." Her heart nearly stopped. She stumbled off the bed and backed into the corner, her hands shaking so hard she could barely keep quiet. The wallpaper's eyes blinked slowly, following her every move. Then, as suddenly as it began, everything stopped. The bulges vanished. The whisper faded. The room went still, too still. Emily didn't dare move. She waited for what felt like hours, listening to the house creak and breathe like an animal waiting for her to make the wrong sound. And just when she thought she was safe, she saw it. In the hallway mirror, the reflection of her room showed someone else lying in her bed. Someone with her face, only their eyes were wide open and staring straight at her. To be continued? A few weeks earlier, everything had seemed perfectly normal. Emily Miller had just moved into her new home, a white two-story house on the edge of Willow Creek. She'd bought it for a surprisingly low price, and the real estate agent had smiled nervously when she asked why. "It's just old," he said. "People prefer something newer these days." Emily didn't mind old. She liked character. The house had a wide porch, creaky steps, and ivy climbing its brick sides. It was quiet, too quiet but peaceful in a way. For the first few nights it felt cozy. She unpacked her boxes, made tea, and read by the window as the wind rustled the trees outside. But on the fourth night, she woke up around 2 a.m. to a faint tapping sound. Like someone drumming their fingers on the walls. At first she thought it was just the pipes. Jason slammed his shoulder against the door, but it wouldn't budge. The knob twisted uselessly in his hand as if something on the other side was holding it shut. Emily's breathing grew fast and shaky. She could hear the whisper again, circling the room like wind sliding through cracks. "You shouldn't have come back." The lights flickered, then went out completely. The room plunged into darkness. For a moment there was only silence, then the sound of scratching started. Long, slow scratches against the walls, moving closer and closer toward them. Emily grabbed Jason's arm. "Do something," she whispered, trembling. He pulled out his phone and turned on the flashlight. The beam shook as he pointed it at the wall. The wallpaper was now covered with dark handprints, smeared and wet as if fresh paint, or blood, had just been pressed onto it. Jason stepped back. "We're getting out of here," he said. He threw his weight against the door again. It finally burst open, slamming against the hallway wall with a loud crack. They bolted down the stairs without looking back. When they reached the living room, Emily stopped, gasping for air. "What was that? Tell me you saw it too." Jason nodded, his face pale. "Yeah, but I don't understand how. There's something inside your walls." Before he could say more, the front door creaked open by itself. A cold wind blew in, carrying with it the faint smell of smoke. The house seemed to sigh, the boards beneath their feet bending and groaning like a voice too old to speak. Jason shone his light toward the door, but the moment the beam touched the open air, the door slammed shut again with a force that shook the floor. The TV turned on by itself, static hissing loudly, and words began to appear across the screen, one letter at a time. "Don't leave me alone." Emily covered her mouth, tears filling her eyes. "I can't stay here, Jason. Please, we have to go." They rushed to the back door, but as Jason reached for the handle, the kitchen lights flickered on. The bulbs buzzed, and all the cabinet doors slowly opened one by one. Dishes clattered onto the floor, shattering in perfect rhythm, as if something invisible was walking toward them. Jason stepped in front of Emily protectively. "Show yourself," he shouted. The air went still. Then, in the reflection of the kitchen window, Emily saw it. A figure stood behind them, tall, thin, and motionless. Its skin looked like cracked plaster, and its eyes were dark, hollow circles that glowed faintly white. It tilted its head slowly, like it was curious. Emily turned, but the figure was gone. Only the cold remained. They didn't sleep that night. They locked themselves in the car and stayed until sunrise. The moment daylight broke, the house looked perfectly normal again, quiet, calm, and empty. Jason tried to laugh it off, but his hands still shook as he started the engine. The next day, Emily called the real estate agent. "You didn't tell me this house had problems," she said, her voice trembling. The agent hesitated on the other end. "What kind of problems?" "Something's inside it. The walls move, things whisper. There's a face in the wall." The line went quiet for a long time. Then the agent spoke softly. "Miss Miller, that house has been empty for years. You're the first person to live there since 1987. Emily frowned. "What happened in 1987? The agent's voice lowered. "A family disappeared. All three of them. The police never found their bodies. Just handprints inside the walls." Emily felt her stomach drop. "You're joking." "I wish I was," he said. "They said the house watches whoever lives there." Emily's stomach tightened as soon as Jason's voice echoed down from the attic. It didn't sound like him at all. There was something stretched, hollow, and strange about it. "Jason?" she whispered again, her flashlight trembling in her hand. No answer. Only the sound of slow footsteps above her, pacing back and forth across the attic floor. Then a laugh. Not loud, quiet, like someone trying to imitate a person's laugh but not quite getting it right. Emily took a deep breath and climbed the ladder. The air grew colder with each step. When she pushed her head through the attic opening, her flashlight beam caught clouds of dust drifting through the air. The attic was empty, or it should have been. "Jason?" she called again. Something moved behind one of the old trunks in the corner. She turned the light quickly and froze. Jason was standing there, completely still, facing the wall. His arms hung at his sides, and his head tilted slightly to one side, just like the figure they had seen in the reflection earlier. "Jason," she said softly, her voice shaking. "Are you okay?" He didn't answer. Slowly, his hand lifted and pointed toward the far corner of the attic. Emily turned her flashlight, and saw it. A large section of the wall looked wrong. The wood wasn't straight. It bulged slightly, like something was behind it, pressing to get out. And right in the center of that bulge were two faint impressions, round and deep. Before she could react, the eyes opened. Emily screamed. The wall split, the boards bending outward like thin ribs cracking open. A whisper filled the attic, dozens of voices speaking at once, layered over each other, impossible to understand except for one clear word. "Stay." Jason turned around slowly. His eyes were wide, his mouth moving without sound, like he was trying to scream but couldn't. Then his face started changing, his skin shifting slightly like something beneath it was moving. Emily scrambled backward and nearly fell through the attic opening. She climbed down the ladder so fast she scraped her knees. The moment her feet hit the floor, the lights in the hallway flickered on and off. She ran to the living room and grabbed her phone. Her hands were shaking so badly she could barely dial. 911, she whispered, but the line was dead. The phone screen glitched, flickering between the camera app and static. Then, for a split second, she saw herself on the screen. Only her reflection was smiling. From upstairs, Jason's footsteps began again. Slow, heavy, wrong. "Emily," his voice called, stretched and distorted. "Come back. It wants to see you." She backed toward the front door, but it was locked again. The locks turned by themselves, clicking shut one after another. The windows rattled but wouldn't open. The house groaned, louder now, boards shifting and cracking as if the whole structure was moving, breathing. Emily looked around desperately for something, anything. Then she remembered, the old basement door behind the kitchen. It was the only exit that didn't lead outside. She ran toward it, pushing the heavy wooden door open. A rush of cold, damp air hit her face. The basement was pitch black, but she didn't care. She just needed to hide. She flicked on her flashlight and stepped down the stairs. The light beam revealed stone walls, shelves full of dusty jars, and something that made her stop cold: drawings. All over the basement walls, drawn in thick black charcoal, were hundreds of eyes. Some big, some small, all staring. In the middle of them, scratched into the stone, was a message written over and over again. "The house watches. The house remembers." Emily's breath came in gasps. She turned to go back upstairs, but the door had closed. "Jason," she screamed, banging on it. "Jason, please. Let me out." But it wasn't Jason's voice that answered. It was the same soft, childlike whisper she'd heard the first night. "You're part of it now." The flashlight flickered, then went out completely. For a moment, there was only silence. Then, from the far corner of the basement, came the sound of footsteps. Slow, deliberate, and getting closer. Emily pressed her back to the wall, her heart hammering so hard it hurt. The steps stopped just in front of her. She could smell something, old Emily turned around slowly, her flashlight shaking in her hand. Jason stood at the bottom of the basement stairs, half hidden in the shadows. His face looked wrong, pale and too smooth like wax melting under heat. His eyes were pitch black, and when he smiled, his lips moved out of sync with his voice. "Jason?" she whispered. "What's happening to you?" He tilted his head, that same eerie motion she had seen before. "It's showing me," he said softly. "It's showing me everything it remembers." Emily backed away, but Jason stepped forward, the light from her flashlight hitting his face. For a split second, she saw something moving beneath his skin, like fingers pressing from the inside of his cheeks. He wasn't Jason anymore. He was part of it. The whispers around them grew louder, swirling like wind inside her head. The walls pulsed faintly, the eyes drawn on them almost seeming to blink. Emily stumbled to the old shelf and grabbed a rusty metal rod. "Stay away from me," she screamed. Jason laughed, a strange broken sound. "You can't hurt it. You're in it now." He lunged toward her and Emily swung the rod. It hit his shoulder with a dull thud, but instead of blood, the spot she struck caved in like plaster. Dust poured from the wound and Jason staggered backward, still smiling. The ground trembled beneath them. Cracks formed in the floor, thin lines spreading across the basement like veins. From the cracks, a faint red light glowed. Emily looked up. The wooden beams above her were bending, stretching downward like arms. The entire house was alive, breathing, reaching. She bolted for the stairs, her shoes slipping on the dusty floor. Jason's voice followed her. "Don't run, Emily. It wants to keep you. It's lonely."